Welcome back to the deep dive. So if you're in corporate learning, L&D, you know what we're talking about. You're the one making sure your people are actually competent. And you can probably feel the ground shifting under your feet right now.
This is a huge shift.
It really is. We're seeing, I think, the death of the old course catalog. You know, the old way was, it was so simple. It was all about administration. Did the employee sign up? Did they, click through all the slides on the mandatory training?
And did they pass the quiz at the end?
Exactly. We were obsessed with this one single metric for completion. But that comfort zone, the whole thing built on compliance and clicks, it's collapsing.
It is. You can't keep up.
And it's creating a real crisis in how we even define competence today. Okay, let's unpack that.
And you can see it in the data. I mean, we constantly mistake activity for actual achievement. We're busy, building courses, and employees are busy clicking through them.
And the result is? Often nothing. Zero impact. Look at the Deloitte numbers. It's pretty staggering. Something like 80% of organizations, they rely heavily on that compliance-driven training.
What stuff you have to do?
The stuff you have to do to tick a box. But here's the kicker. Fewer than 10% see any real, measurable performance improvement from it.
Wow.
So the hard truth, and we all really need to get our heads around this, is that completion is not capability. Attendance is not behavior change.
Okay, so that's our mission today. We're going to cut through all that noise and give you a real blueprint for what's next. We're diving deep into this fundamental shift from that old course-centric model, which is all about inputs, right? Enrollment.
About input.
To this new skills-first model, which is all about outcomes, verifiable capability, and of course, the tech that makes it happen, the LXP.
The learning experience platform.
Let's start with the problem itself, which we're calling the input trap. Traditional training, it just treats learning like a one-off event.
Yeah, an isolated thing. Totally. A workshop you schedule 6 months out, a seminar, that kind of bulky certification course.
Right.
And in that old model, what's important is the delivery system itself, the schedule, the attendance, not the actual result you're trying to get. It's a very static model for a world that's anything but.
And that creates a really dangerous illusion of capability.
Yeah.
So imagine a big software company, right? They make the whole sales team sit through, a 3-hour video on a new competitor.
Okay.
Everyone finishes it. L&D reports 100% compliance. Great. But then a salesperson is out in the field, they're with a client, and they get a tough question about that competitor.
Do they remember the details?
Probably not. Not the specific thing they need to win the deal. The training was just an input. It wasn't an application.
And that static model, it can't keep up with the skills economy today. The shelf life of what we know is just getting shorter and shorter.
It's shrinking so fast.
Yeah.
The half-life of a learned skill. So the time it takes for half of what you know to be, irrelevant, is now estimated to be about 5 years.
Just 5 years.
And for technical skills, like coding or data science, it's even less. So if you're an organization and you're waiting for your annual training cycle to build new skills, you're already behind.
You're already bleeding talent, losing to the competition. And that urgency, that's what drives this whole skills-first idea. It's not just a nicer way to do things. It's a total flip of the script.
It is.
L&D has to stop thinking like librarians, just organizing a catalog. So instead of asking the old question, what courses should we build? We have to ask a much more strategic question.
Right.
What skills do our people need to execute our business strategy for the next, say, 3 years? And do they actually have them right now?
It's a gap analysis first, training second approach.
Exactly.
And that's the pivot. It forces L&D to move from being a sort of a cost center that just schedules things to a real strategic partner that's focused on talent, on closing those gaps.
You're building a capability map for the whole company.
Precisely. And that realization that you need to be constantly mapping skills against what's coming next. Well, that's why you need totally new infrastructure. You just can't do it with an old compliance system. And that leads us straight to the LXP.
The learning experience platform. Yeah, and for anyone trying to get their head around the term, the best analogy, the one that always sticks, is that the LXP is the Netflix of learning.
That's the one.
It's consumer grade. It's built for the user first, not the admin.
Yeah.
And that one priority shift is everything.
It is.
But, okay, most big companies already have an LMS, a learning management system. So why do we need something totally new? Is the LXP just a better LMS, or is it different?
It is fundamentally different, and that's the great divide between them. It's philosophical, really. And it boils down to one thing, push versus pull.
Okay.
Think of the old LMS as the compliance engine. It was built back in the 90s, the 2000s, for an admin to push out mandatory content.
Right. Assigned by HR or legal?
Exactly. Its driver is push. Its metric is completion. The whole feeling for the user is, I have to learn this. You're just a passive recipient.
Which makes the LXP the growth engine.
Do growth engine, yes. Built for the learner. Its primary driver is pull. The employee discovers what they need based on their own curiosity or an immediate problem they have to solve for their job.
So the metrics are totally different. Engagement, actual skill growth.
Right. The philosophy is, I want to learn this because I know it's going to help me today or get me that next promotion.
And it's not just your internal stuff, right? It's an ecosystem.
It's a whole ecosystem.
Yeah.
The LXP uses AI to create a personalized feed, just like Netflix does. It doesn't just host your internal catalog. It pulls in content from Coursera, LinkedIn Learning, whatever you subscribe to. And this is critical. It supports user-generated content.
So an expert inside the company can just share what they know.
Instantly. Without a 6-month production cycle from L&D, that aggregation model is what makes it feel like consumer tech. And it's why adoption rates are just through the roof compared to the old LMS.
So for our listener who's maybe evaluating this tech, what are the core pillars? What does an LXP absolutely have to deliver on that skills promise?
There are really 3 core pillars. First is personalization and AI. That's the smart recommendation engine. It surfaces the exact piece of content you need based on your role, your history, and your career goals.
So it's creating these dynamic pathways for you.
Exactly. Second, it has to be social and collaborative. We learn from each other. So the platform needs to make it easy for users to create content, to have discussions, to rate resources. You see platforms like 360 Learning, they are laser focused on this.
Making collaboration frictionless.
Mm-hmm. And third, and this is the most important one, it has to be inherently skills-driven. Every single piece of content, a PDF, a video, whatever, it has to be tagged with specific skills.
And that's what lets it do the gap analysis.
That's what powers the whole thing. It can see what skills you have, what skills you need for that next role, and then it builds you the most efficient path to get there.
So that makes it crystal clear. The LMS is for the mandatory stuff, for risk. The LXP is for growth, for agility.
Right. And most big companies, they don't actually get rid of their LMS. They need both.
You need the LMS for the regulatory baseline and the LXP on top for the competitive edge.
That's the modern stack.
Okay, so implementing this, it's obviously not just about buying new software. This is a cultural change. This is where it gets really interesting. Let's dig into the 3-step blueprint for how you actually do this.
Right.
So if we're going to make this massive shift from completion to capability, what's step 1? The absolute first thing you have to do.
The first step is the audit, or as we call it, define your taxonomy. You can't build what you can't measure. So you have to start with a full skills audit, and you had to get away from your vague old job titles.
Right.
The goal here is to get granular. We've all seen that job description that just says, must have good communication skills.
It turns up absolutely nothing.
It's meaningless in a skills economy. A proper taxonomy, you get specific. You replace communication skills with things like executive briefing or conflict resolution or technical writing.
Things you can actually measure and observe.
Exactly. And the good news is you don't have to start from a blank page. There are platforms now like SkillsBase or Talent Guard that use AI to analyze your existing job data and suggest these granular skills for you.
So it makes that audit scalable. Okay, so once the skills are defined, step 2 is the content itself. Making it modular and in the flow of work. It feels like the old long-form course is it's the enemy of agility.
It is. This is where you have to shift your content strategy to micro-learning. And you have to understand the difference between just-in-case learning and just-in-time.
Just in case is that 45-minute module you have to take, just in case you need one tiny bit of it 6 months from now.
And your brain just doesn't retain it. Just-in-time is the opposite. It's about solving an immediate problem. A salesperson is about to jump on a huge call in 10 minutes. They need a closing technique now.
Right. They don't need a 2-day workshop. They need a 5-minute video they can watch on their phone.
A quick simulation, a guide, something they can access in the flow of their work. That's why that workflow integration is so huge. It removes the friction of having to go look for something.
Which brings us to step 3. And this is where I think L&D leaders have to be really brave. The validation, proving the skill.
Mm-hmm.
Because in this world, participation is worthless. Capability is everything. So how do you prove it? How do you get beyond A multiple choice quiz.
This is where the old model just completely falls apart. You have to move to practical evidence. We're talking about digital credentials and badges.
Okay.
But these aren't participation trophies. You don't get a badge for showing up. You earn it by submitting proof.
Proof like what?
It could be a recorded sales pitch that gets reviewed by peers. It could be a line of code you submitted that works, a project plan that got approved, real work product.
So instead of just a transcript, every employee builds up this portfolio of actual accomplishments.
Exactly. A skills portfolio. And that portfolio, that's the new currency for internal mobility. When a manager is looking for a project lead, they don't search for who took the project management course.
They search for who has the badge, backed by 3 real successful projects.
It completely changes the conversation about who's ready for what.
That is a game changer. Okay, so for anyone listening who's ready to make this move, the LXP market it's crowded. There's a lot of noise. How do you even start to choose a platform?
Well, the key thing to understand is that the vendors have specialized. They've found their superpower, if you will, that targets a specific need or a certain level of skills maturity.
Okay, so let's break that down.
Let's look at 4 main categories. First, you've got the data heavyweight. This is for your big, complex, global enterprise. Think 5,000 plus employees, multiple HR systems. The leader here is Degreed.
Okay, so what's their superpower? Why Degreed for a huge company?
Their superpower is data and ecosystem integration. Degreed is less about creating content and more about being the single source of truth for skills. It sits on top of all your other systems, your Workday, your SAP, all your content libraries, and it gives you one unified view of your entire company's skill inventory. They are masters of that complexity.
Got it. What's next?
Next is the Agile Creator. This is for fast-moving teams that need to create content quickly because their business changes all the time. The vendor to know here is 360 Learning.
So for a tech startup or a company where internal processes are always in flux.
Exactly. Their superpower is collaborative learning and speed. They make it incredibly easy to turn your own internal experts into content creators so you bypass that L&D bottleneck. Their creation tool feels like writing a blog post. It's fast.
Nice. Okay, category 3.
That's the workflow native. This is all about solving the adoption problem, especially if you're a big Microsoft shop. And that means Microsoft Viva Learning.
Right, because adoption is everything.
It is. And Viva's superpower is its seamless workflow integration. It meets employees where they already are. If your team lives in Microsoft Teams all day, making them go to another website to learn something is a recipe for failure.
So Viva just puts the learning right inside Teams or Outlook.
Right in the flow.
Yeah.
It removes that one extra step, and that makes a massive difference for daily use.
Okay, and the final one.
The hybrid powerhouse. This is for an organization that wants to replace an old LMS and just have one system that does everything. The player there is Docebo.
So what's their superpower?
AI and automation, but in a single package. Docebo has managed to be both a really robust, compliant LMS on the back end and a really slick AI-driven LHP on the front end. For a company that wants to simplify their tech stack down to one platform, it's a very powerful all-in-one choice.
That's a super clear breakdown. It really gives you a map based on your biggest pain point complexity, speed, adoption, or just consolidation. But zooming out, I think the core message from all this is pretty stark. The shift to skills first isn't a trend, it's a correction. It's driven by the sheer speed of business today.
It is. And it means L&D leaders have to fundamentally change their identity. You're not a course provider anymore. You have to become a capability builder.
Your job isn't managing an inventory of courses. It's managing the competency of the entire organization.
Well said.
And for the employee, the benefit is just enormous. This new model lets you snack on learning every day just as part of your job. You don't have to wait for the big annual training event to stay relevant.
That's how you build a truly agile workforce. And for you, the listener, if you're thinking about this or you already have an LXP, here's a final thought to chew on.
Okay.
Look at the content your organization has right now. Is it mostly structured for just-in-case consumption? Long, bulky courses designed to cover everything. Or is it truly designed for just-in-time problem-solving in the flow of work? And that brings up the really important question. Is your company tracking activity, or are you tracking true, verifiable capability?